So let's start. After the first steps for registration, I would like to welcome all the participants in our workshop, BioVoices. This is Chiara Pocaterra speaking, and with me there are some colleagues working on this project funded by the European Commission, Horizon 2020 project, BioVoices. Daniele Gizzi, that is on the video with me also, and Matteo Sabini, that is joining in few seconds. BioVoices is a coordination and support action that aims to support the European Commission in the awareness about bio-based products. More in general, to support the European Commission to boost the bioeconomy. So today we are discussing about a local, let's say at the European level, priority of the bioeconomy. So how to boost the bioeconomy in Italy through policies, through funding programs, through other instruments and tools. First of all, we would like to understand the participants. So this is me. I welcome you. Next slide. BioVoices. So we will use Mentimeter in order to have input also from the participant. So I would like to invite all participants to connect to menti.com. So with your mobile or even with your laptop, doesn't care. www.menti.com, use the code 3227924, and you can participate in this event, sending also your comments, your questions, your ideas. And first of all, we would like to ask who is participating. Great. This one. To which category do you belong to? So I will invite all the participants to register and to select your, thank you. So the first one has joined. So few words again about BioVoices. The project started at the beginning of 2018, will close by March 2021, so next year. Many activities were performed during this year, almost 70 workshops around Europe to investigate actors on what is bio-based economy, what are the challenges, what are ideas in order to boost industries and in general the sector of the bio-based. We, as BioVoices, and so as you can understand, the BioVoices, so we try really to understand from the different stakeholders, so industry, policymaker, research, civil society, investor, what can be the ideas, and in order to prepare some recommendation that will be given to the European Commission in order to build the new policies, and especially in order to build the new goals for the new program Horizon Europe that will start in few months. So I think that maybe we don't have so many time to stay here in this slide, so we go ahead. So I see that we have some representatives from all the stakeholders. I would like to start. I know that Professor Fava is already online with us. I would like to thank him for his availability. And so we will go straight away on the presentation about the implementation action plan for the Italian bioeconomy strategy. Professor Fava is a professor at the University of Bologna and is in the National Committee on Biosafety, Biotechnology and Life Sciences of the Presidency of Council of Ministers. So thank Professor Fava to joining us for this workshop today. I give you the floor.
Thank you very much for the invitation. Good morning to all of you. Yes, I will try to address my talk by using one PowerPoint that you can check later for looking at specific details. Thank you. So I don't know if I can manage directly or if you are doing it for me. If you do it for me, please go to the next. I don't see slides. Any slide, but
I don't know. Yes, suddenly I cannot see the slide. It was working, now not.
Well, after you is depending on, you can also circulate the presentation later on. I can also go without, it depending on the time that we have. And for sure we can save some time, and you will circulate the presentation later on. Okay. So, first of all, the Italian bioeconomy. Italian bioeconomy is relying on different sectors. Surely those associated with the agro-food sector, so agriculture, livestock, fishery, aquaculture, and the food and drink industry, which is using the biomass coming from the previous sectors for making food. And then, of course, we have forestry, we have the blue bioeconomy, so blue biotech, coastal agroforestry, etc. And then we have the activity associated with the valorization of the bio-waste and the wastewater generated at the city level. And then we have the wood and paper industry and biorefineries that are refining non-food biomass and wastes for preparing a variety of novel or innovative byproducts of huge interest for many, many industrial sectors, from the chemical, textile sectors to the cosmetic, but also in some cases pharmaceutical sector. All these sectors together are making about 330 billion euros per year of turnover and 2 million of jobs in our country. These numbers are growing significantly. In 1 year, they increased by 2%. And with these numbers, we are third in Europe in terms of turnover and jobs after Germany and France. But we are second as a presence in the funded project by the European Commission in the frame of Horizon 2020, Societal Challenge 2, and also the BBI-JU. So very challenging projects. We are second as a presence in the funded project, so very strong in research and innovation. But we are also number one in biodiversity in the number of quality products introduced on the market. And then, of course, bioeconomy is pretty relevant for its benefits in terms of environmental and social sustainability. So we need to further improve bioeconomy because it's very strategic for our country. To do that, we need to work inside each of the sectors that I mentioned to you in order to improve productivity, but also sustainability, quality of products. But in particular, what we need to do in our country is to interconnect all those sectors. This in order to have value chains longer and better rooted on the territory, and therefore able to provide new opportunities in the rural, coastal, but also marginal areas where we need to create new opportunities. But interconnecting these sectors means also to implement the circularity that we need to implement absolutely in this landscape, and as in many others, as we know very well. But to do that, we need to bring together the public and private actors playing in each of the sectors, and then all those playing in the different sectors. but we need to also better cooperate or boost the cooperation, more effective cooperation among ministries in charge for the bioeconomy, but also the ministerial actors and the actors of the regions that are working at the territorial level. So here the idea to launch a national bioeconomy coordination board at the Presidency of Council of Ministers, which is bringing together the representatives of the technology clusters that are going to talk after me, green chemistry cluster, agri-food sector, and blue growth clusters. They are together with the representative of the 21 regions that we have in our country, and those from the 4 major ministries: Ministry of Agriculture, Ministry of University Research, Ministry of Economic Development, and Ministry for the Environment, and together with the Italian Agency for Cohesion. And all together, we revised the former bioeconomy strategy that we launched in 2014. We did this exercise 1 year ago, and more recently, actually during the last months, we developed the implementation action plan for our country by prioritizing the priorities that were identified in the frame of the strategy. During our work, the lockdown came, and so we clearly understood the situation, clearly understood the key role that bioeconomy can play in the quick recovery of our country. So we introduced in the implementation action plan a session focused on this, and we also produced a simple short document in Italian to be provided to the President, Professor Conte, but also the ministers, in which we highlighted in a clear manner the role of circular bioeconomy in the recovery, in the economic, social, sanitary, environmental recovery of our country. In these documents, we in particular proposed 5 national flagships, national initiatives, simple but ready to be put on place, and also with actors ready to invest by using their own money for part of the cost of the initiatives. There are 5 flagships. I will simply announce them, and then you can find more information in the documents. In the PowerPoint, you can find the details for reaching all documents. One flagship is focused on the better interconnection among the rural areas, coastal areas, and multi-inputs and multi-products biorefineries. The second one is on novel infrastructure, but also the revamping of existing infrastructure, focusing on the recovery and the integrated valorization of urban biowaste and wastewater and sludge. The third flagship is on the reconversion of industrial sites and refineries in crisis. This through bioeconomy, in particular bio-based economy actions. This is a process already in place, but we want to continue doing this exercise in the whole country. These first 3 flagships were proposed by Cluster Spring and approved by all the representatives of the regions and the ministers. The 4th flagship is coming from the cluster on blue growth. It is focused on the improvement of sustainability of the fishery and aquaculture value chains in the Adriatic-Ionian macro regions. It is by improving the efficiency of the value chains, but also by removing plastics and wastes that are affecting the production of fishery production in that specific area. The 5th, the last flagship, national flagship, came from the cluster agri-food. This is focused on the setup of advancing biorefinery systems, also produce ingredients for the integrated valorization of the byproducts and waste coming from the wine and meat production sectors. This is coming from the 2 largest cooperatives that we have in our country working in the 2 sectors. And together with the flagships, we also proposed some flanking actions addressed to monitor the ecological limits of these actions, but also to promote the tailored policy standards labels, etc., for promoting the products coming from the flagships, and also, of course, citizen engagement. The citizen, the consumers, has to be with us in these actions, and of course, the final point, training of professional training of people working in these sectors on these flagships. Thank you very much for your attention.
Thank you, Professor Fava. I would like to ask if Engineer Cimino is online, but maybe there's some problem because he brought me on the chat. Roberto, are you online? Roberto Cimino is president of the Italian technological cluster Blue Growth. I don't know if he is reconnecting. So maybe Giulia Gregori is here? Not. Giulia is Giulia Gregori. So maybe Giulia Gregori can connect. She's the Secretary General of the Italian Technological Cluster Spring and member also of the board of the Bio-Based Industries Consortium, NBBIJU. So maybe she's connected. Okay, Giulia. Great. Thank you, Giulia. So.
Can you hear me?
Yes, perfectly. So, after this introduction of Professor Fava, what can you say from the cluster Spring point of view?
Okay, so I'm going to share the view of the technological cluster of green chemistry. As Professor Fava introduced some minutes ago, we really think that circular bioeconomy could be a key tool to accelerate the post-COVID-19 relaunch programs, interconnecting EU strategies, Green Deal, and the 5 missions action plans launched by the European Commission on the 22nd of September, by delivering solutions to the main challenges of the EU society: healthy oceans, smart cities, climate change mitigation, soil health, and cancer. 2 words about our cluster. We are a member of the National Coordination Group on Bioeconomy, so we really work together with the other clusters, with the ministries, in order to try to share the main challenges and the main priorities in this sector. And today we are 123 members, including industries, associations, universities, research centers, institutions on different sectors, such as agriculture, bioindustry, waste treatment, technology transfer, and transformation of biomass and byproducts. And a thing that is really important for us is also the partnership with regions. Today we gather with 13 regions in Italy, and we discuss with them priorities, needs, and the barriers that we need to overcome in order to really exploit all the opportunities that the bioeconomy can give to our country. And we think, as Fabio was saying before, that for the full implementation of the bioeconomy, it is necessary to promote measures and flagship projects in 3 specific areas: agriculture, bioindustries, and organic waste treatment sector. As reported in the Implementation Action Plan, the production of bio-based materials coming from agroforestry biomass, from biowaste, from maritime activities, could become a special opportunity for many rural and coastal areas of the country. They can constitute both a source of income diversification and additional profitability for all the involved stakeholders along the value chain, and they can contribute to dispose smartly residues, regenerating territories, and contrasting the phenomena of desertification and soil contamination. And regarding the rural area, it will be important to promote the transition of agriculture to climate neutrality, to exploit low-impact crops in marginal lands, and to improve the soil organic matter content and fertility. In this area, as I said before, demonstrators, lighthouses, living labs will be essential place where multiple disciplines and stakeholders can exchange ideas, test, and replicate solutions on different scale. So we think that a win-win agro-industrial value chains between agriculture and bio-based industry would really lead to the valorization and enhancement of the existing infrastructures, ecosystem services, and skill. In Italy, huge investments have already been made in this sector, but to make the most of them, we need to overcome the end-of-waste uncertainties. For example, as a matter of fact, in many cases, there are currently limiting the possibility to fully exploit byproducts and to close the carbon cycle. And the last point is the waste management. The EU produces 96 million tons of biowaste and 64 million are going to landfill, with significant economic, environmental and social costs. Instead, high-quality compost is a key to bring back organic carbon to soil with a double effect to regenerate fertility while maintaining biodiversity and decarbonizing the system. The Italian model of the organic waste collection, which has already given striking results, positioning our country as first in Europe, is easily exportable and shared to other member states. The new EU regulation on organic waste would lead to an increase of the amount of biowaste collected and made available in cities at the same time. For this reason, measures have to be taken soon in the adaptation and development of innovative infrastructures to the recovery and treatment of organic matter. As Fabio Fava said before, our cluster, together with the Association of Composters, together with farmers, presented a flagship project in this sector. To conclude, for the sustainable exploitation of the circular bioeconomy in the shortest time possible, it is necessary to start soon, leveraging for those innovation sectors and those local value chains already able to give answers in the direction of the EU Green New Deal goals. Thank you.
Sì, sì. Sì, lo dico. Va bene, perfetto.
Così non saprei cos'altro fare, insomma.
Sì.
Ho provato tutti i browser, ho avviato un computer, ma il problema rimane
sì. Sì. Allora lo dico, perfetto, grazie.
Basta, mi spiace.
Spiace anche a noi, spiace a tutti.
Immagino,
mi spiace a tutti, mi dispiace anche perché comunque ti ho fatto perdere del tempo in ogni caso, va bene.
Non ti preoccupare.
Va bene.
I temi sono cose che capitano, l'importante è che ci capiamo fra noi e
certo.
tutto e la prossima volta vedremo di fare magari un periodo di
certo, infatti.
Capiremo.
Lo sentite?
Ok.
Ma però se vuoi salutare poi ti sentono, dicono dal mio microfono.
Sì, io posso salutare, ringrazio tutti per l'invito, ma purtroppo problemi tecnici mi impediscono di sentirvi e quindi non riesco a partecipare in maniera attiva. Sarà per la prossima volta.
Sì, va bene.
Grazie
Roberto. Grazie. Ciao. So, sorry, but Roberto Cimino, the president of Cluster Big Blue Growth, is not joining because he tried several times to join the app, but it was not possible, so he sends his regards. Thank you, Giulia, for your intervention, and I also from Paolo Bonaretti, I give his regards, because he just phoned also Paolo, and it's not possible for him to download this tool. So I think that we have to go on. So the show the show must go on, and so we move forward to the next slide. And this is the next? No. È giusta? To the next slide. Okay, this is the right. Sorry, I'm a little bit confused now. So we will start the discussion together with our speakers. I hope that also Mr. Pasquini will be able to speak, because he can listen, but he cannot speak. Mr. Pasquini is the head of concession utilities and public-private partnership. Is director of the Department for Coordination and Planning of Economic Policy in the Prime Minister's Office. Then we have Sara Bedin, independent expert on public procurement of innovation, so PPI, but also I know that is very expert also in pre-commercial public procurement, PCP. We have with us also Mr. Michael Nettersheim, is the founding partner of the European Circular Bioeconomy Fund. The European Circular Bioeconomy Fund is the first venture fund exclusively focused on the bioeconomy and the circular bioeconomy in Europe. We have with us Ms. Annalisa Zezza from the Council for Agricultural Research and Economics. We have with us also Mr. Nicolai Giacobbi, that is one of our BioVoices partner, and from ICLEI, the Local Government for Sustainability. And ICLEI is a really global network. They are active in more than 100 countries around Europe, with more than 1,700 local and regional governments member of this network. And he will bring in the discussion information on how can be used the green public procurement to boost the bioeconomy and bio-based economy. And then we have with us also Antonio Carbone, the national contact point and for the European Innovation Council, and he will give us some information on R&I fundings. So I would like to welcome all our speakers, and we can go to the first question. The first question. Next slide, eccola. So the first question is how the various instruments and opportunities can support the implementation of the Italian bioeconomy strategy, the Italian bioeconomy action plan that Fava, Professor Fava, just described very briefly in our first presentation. I would like to try to start immediately from Mr. Pasquini, so we can understand if the microphone is working or not. Gabriele. So I cannot hear you. So the problem is there. Maybe, why don't you call me? Perché non mi chiama Gabriele, che così lo metto sul microfono? Uso il microfono del cellulare, lo appoggio al mio microfono della cuffia. Può essere effettivamente un'idea, perché prima Cimino lo sentivate. Perfect. Sì, in the meantime, so Sara Bedin, can you let us know what is your point of view? How can public procurement of innovation and pre-commercial public procurement can support?
Yes, I think you can hear me, I hope. Yeah? Can you hear me? Can you hear me? Yeah. Okay, so I think that innovation, public procurement, is one of the principal instruments supporting the implementation of the BIT through competition. I think, and I base my experience on several projects funded and not funded by European Commission, and especially one case that I would like to pose under your attention, which is the POSIDON PCP project. That is a really successful initiative because it's developing new technology for soil remediation through competition. The key element of the innovation public procurement is the competition. I think that these instruments could be valid, very valid, under a number of preconditions. And I would like to shortly discuss about these three preconditions. The first is the change, a radical change in perspective, needed to move from traditional push and market-driven innovation strategies to pull and really demand-driven procurement action, which is not still metabolized. This is strongly underestimated, that the innovation procurement is not about, and essentially, an industrial policy. It is aimed at improving the performance of public services to increase the long-term public expenditure effectiveness, and is aimed at creating new sustainable conditions for the society. So this point of observation is necessary, and the demand side needs to be investigated, needs to be engaged directly and more. So the second aspect is to change, to move from a sole sourcing environment to a multiple sourcing environment, preventing lock-in. Competition is aimed at reducing the risk of lock-in. This problem is severe in Europe and has been identified as a problem. So a kind of monopoly where there is a principal actor in the market that is able to charging costs and is not efficient, this market. So the idea to change traditional suppliers and go out an area of comfort finds still resistances. But the experience demonstrates that the opening of the competition and the enforcement of competition, not only through a single contractor, especially during the R&D phase, is successful and have concrete impact in the performance. Otherwise, low quality, time overruns, and cost overruns are observed. The third condition is that I want to stress is that the concept of innovation and procurement refer to the competition. So it's important to clarify the market. What are the KPIs? Which are the goals? Which are the objectives that need to be defined beforehand, before starting the development? And I appreciate that in the presentation initially done by Professor Fava, the council is composed, articulated with the ministry, so at policy level, and there are concrete flagship initiatives where defined this is necessary and also to be specified in terms of KPIs. What are the achievements we want to have in a period of time regarding the three initiatives that I have evidenced, and flagship number 2, flagship number 3, flagship number 4 could be really implemented, significantly implemented with innovation public procurement. These are my ideas for the first question.
Thank you, Sara. And so maybe we can do like that with Mr. Pasquini.
Did you hear me?
Yes.
Yeah, right. Thank you very much. Welcome to everybody, and sorry for the presentation. And I want to point out three main questions about the utility of PPP schemes for improving the use of this methodology for financing or for support investment in bioeconomy.
Okay, yeah, thank you very much. So, what is, sorry, your point of view, Nikolai, with your experience of previous project?
Yes, thank you, Chiara, and everybody for inviting us here. Thank you also, Professor Fava, for the presentation. That was very interesting. I am not familiar with the Italian strategy in detail, I must say, But of course, we can look at equally from the point of view from local governments always. So when talking about public procurement, we look always what role can the bioeconomy and the circular economy play for cities, for local administrations. And of course, here you have first and foremost a limitation in terms of not all sectors of the bioeconomy play a big role for cities, for instance, or for local governments. Can you hear me, by the way? Just testing. Okay. So I want to point out that there's a certain limitation in terms of what the bioeconomy at the local level is covering, and we have first and foremost, of course, the waste problem. So for a lot of cities, the organic waste matter and so on is really the biggest feedstock when it comes to building a local bioeconomy. I think that is one point. Another one is, of course, the maritime area. And the last point is also things that are coming from the growth aspect and from the social inclusion. We have a lot of problems when it comes to demographic change, especially in rural areas, for instance, in Germany, but also in other areas, where you see that the opportunities for jobs, etc., for opportunity is diminishing, and the bioeconomy really holds some key answers for that. That is one introductory aspect. And when it comes to local public procurement, we see that at the European level, there is really a very big potential, obviously. I would even say procurement is one of the biggest levers of public administrations in general to influence, to boost this transition. But we see that at the local level, there's really a lack of dedicated strategy for the bioeconomy. I know actually one or two strategies at city level to really build a bioeconomy. That is really something rare. And so the use of GPP for the bioeconomy is also limited. And in my view, or in our view, it can then be successful when it is linked to other sustainability agendas, such as sustainable development, such as the energy transition, such as the climate area. So when you focus on the environmental aspects, on the one hand side that bio-based products and services have, and at the growth aspects on the other, I think then you can have a dedicated, procurement strategy for the bioeconomy. And I want to share a few lessons with you from a previous project that is already that has ended, but I think those are still valid. And one of them centers, the first one centers around lack of knowledge on innovative procurement and GPP. And here we see that especially for smaller municipalities, that there's a lack of market knowledge. There's really a lack of knowing what's out there, what products can we have, and what benefits do they have. And secondly, there's a lack of knowledge in terms of how to procure them, because it is not easy to specify certain contents of bio-based matter in public procurement tenders. It is not easy to control that, to enforce that, and so on. So this is really one, and the other one is associated to the risk that comes with procuring bio-based products and services, at least a perceived risk. And here I want to also point out that when you think about a cost analysis that only focuses on the operational cost of a product or a service, then of course bio-based products or circular products, recycled products sometimes have a disadvantage. However, when we look at changing the structure, the price composition or the structure of how prices are being calculated in Europe, and this is not something I invented, this is really a key to a circular transition, is to internalize the costs of production for different services and products. And when doing that, you have, let's say, a real price for those products. And then a lot of these sustainable solutions that we're talking about become a lot cheaper, in fact. So internalizing externalities is the key word here, I think I want to push out. The second one is related to procurement and cooperation, and here we have we have seen that we need really strong leadership and cooperation in the municipality, in the administration, in the departments that cover procurement, in order to also use the market power of local governments to affect the industry and tell them what they want, how they want it, and to really be a strong partner in this dialogue. That is number two. The third one is to also broaden a bit the viewpoint from local governments in terms of that procurement is not just, let's say, a necessary undertaking to procure whatever you have, but it is a lever for sustainability. And I think you know that all, so I'm not telling you anything new, but also to sort of break down centralized structures in this. So really help departments engage other departments as well within a city, within an administration, in order to get everybody on board and not have it centralized in one area. And the last point I want to make is related to the nature of green and innovative procurement. And I've talked about the cost. So here we have a strong focus on cost, on prices, and this has to change. So either public authorities change their viewpoint, which is not to be expected, because prices matter, obviously. But internalizing these costs that I mentioned at the beginning is one strategy, really. And then lastly, there's also a lack of trust, really, that the industry, the dialogue between industry and public authorities is difficult for various reasons, but also from the market side, there's a problem in terms of passing on the information on risks that those products have. And in the meantime, there's also a risk that local governments have to when they invest in new products, where they don't know whether these products have the functionalities they want, etc. I think these were my points. I hope this was helpful for your discussion, Chiara.
Yes, absolutely. Thank you. So I would like to go to Dr. Annalisa Zezza from the Council for Agricultural Research and Economics. What is your point of view? How can the CAP, so the Common Agriculture Policy, contribute?
Hello to everybody. Well, considering the key role of agriculture, the agricultural and the forest sector in the bioeconomy, of course, the CAP, that is the Common Agricultural Policy, that is the most important policy for agriculture, can have and is having already a very important role in spreading a model of a circular bioeconomy. On the one side, this means to facilitate the change of agricultural practices towards more sustainable ones, so that would help, for example, soil regeneration, has been already said by Giulia, Gregori, the saving of water, and the reduction of soil erosion on the one side, in order to sustainably produce biomass. But at the same time, agriculture can use products of the bioeconomy, changing from fossil to bioproducts. So we think of biolubricants and bioenergy, and so on, so both pillars of the CAP can be very important. The second pillar of rural development has already been used in this sense, but as I think you all know, in Italy we have an application of the CAP at regional level, and so the state of implementation of measures that favor the bioeconomy transition is very different from region to region, and I think with this regard, the strategy, the national strategy, and the dialogue with the region has a very important role in giving a direction for to the local policy makers. But also the first pillar is, I think, can have an important role and be strengthened in the future, because some way of some tools of the first pillars, as the one that we have for the fruit and vegetable sector, that are based on programs made by the association of producers, by the producer organization, favor the integration of farms and also the connection of farmers with the industry. And this facilitates to create that critical mass, so that is very important for investments. So there could be other sectors where this kind of aggregation or the existence of a cooperative model is lagging behind, and could be favored, changing the model through which we give or the EU gives support, direct support, income support to the farms. But with regard to the CAP, we have to consider that we are in a moment when we should, well, there is the new, there are the new programs, the new regulation, but this is the discussion is a little bit late. Is slowing because there is the need, well, because there has been the crisis, the COVID crisis, but also because there is the need to align the CAP regulation with the Green Deal and the Farm to Fork strategy. So we were thinking to have the new regulation by now. Instead, the implementation of the new strategic plans is now foreseen for 2022, and this means that there is well, the time between the Italian strategy and the new CAP are not perfectly aligned at the moment, and this is not an Italian problem, and that involves all European countries.
Thank you.
Yes, I think this is all by now.
Okay, thank you very much. So now I would like to go to Mr. Nettersheim, the funding partner of the European Circular Bioeconomy Fund. I saw that he's here. Maybe the camera is not working, but I think that he can speak anyway. So how can the European Circular Bioeconomy Fund support the boosting of the bioeconomy? So it's in the aim of the fund. So Michael, are you talking? Because I cannot hear you. No, we cannot hear you. No, he disappeared, and so he appeared. So no, stanno scrivendo qualcosa? Yes, so in the meantime, I would like to go ahead and I would like to ask to Antonio Carbone from APRE, the National Contact Point for SME Instrument and other other tools.
Hi, Chiara.
If
Good morning. Can you hear me?
he can give us good morning. Yes.
Good morning. Good morning, everybody. I listened with great interest to the previous interventions, and now in a few words I try to focus on the attention on another element that I would say is fundamental, which is basically where to look for petrol to refill the tank, start the car, and achieve the objectives mentioned so far. So therefore funding, European funding in particular, even as perhaps has been said previously, we are facing a decisive historical moment in Italy and Europe, and seems that we will have important resources available at our disposal to face the great challenges. So even more than usual, I think it's important to know how to get oriented, how to navigate the jungle of opportunities, both at private and public level, both at local and European level. So if we talk about European level, I will spend a few words about Horizon Europe, which is the next European framework program for research and innovation, with different pillars, funding schemes, and focus throughout the program. One of them is the European Innovation Council, which is not something from the scratch totally new, because there is a piloting, an ongoing pilot, a current pilot, and the EIC, both today and in the next 7 years of Horizon Europe, aims at identifying and supporting breakthrough technologies and innovation, including the bioeconomy sector. So here the Commission is looking for technologies, innovation, and then startups and SMEs with the potential to scale up internationally and become market leaders. And within the EIC, as well within the Horizon Europe, the Commission supports all stages from R&D on the scientific underpinnings of breakthrough technologies to the validation, demonstration of breakthrough technologies and innovations, up to the market uptake, because for the first time, I think, in the history of EU R&I funding programs, the Commission could intervene also through equity. So it's the Commission, through a new EAC fund, through a new venture capital fund, who becomes shareholder of a company to facilitate the scaling up, so the market uptake, the growth on the European and international market. So something quite a revolution, but as I told a few seconds ago, throughout the EAC we have different funding schemes, starting from fundamental research, open to researchers, universities, research centers, big industry, funded 100%, as well as something more specific for innovative SMEs and startups, like the EAC Accelerator, with a mix of funding between grant, 70%, and equity, up to 15 million. So we're talking about very huge amount for the go-to-market strategy, for the go-to-market phase. But EAC, of course, it's not the only opportunity, will not be the only opportunity under Horizon Europe. Of course, there will be a specific area dedicated to the food, bioeconomy, natural resources, agriculture, environment, which is called in the new jargon of Horizon Europe cluster number 6. Under this cluster, including also some partnership, well, the Commission is looking at, how can I say, Chiara, a transformative change of the economy, society, to reduce environmental degradation, to halt the decline of biodiversity, to better manage natural resources, and also to face the big challenges in terms of climate change or ensure food and water security. Here again, we have different funding schemes, different instruments, more research oriented, more innovation oriented. In the first case, universities, SMEs, industry, research centers can participate in a collaborative way, so through a partnership, through a consortium funded 100%, in the case of research and innovation action. In the case of innovation action, more focusing on validation, demonstration on real environment, so more closer to the market, industry and for-profit entities will be funded 70%, while research center, universities, public, no-profit organization will still get funded 100%. Under the cluster 6, which is the cluster of your interest, I would say, at this stage, the Commission already identified some destination that I can list now, I can read now. The first one is biodiversities and ecosystem services. For destination, I mean some priorities, so you can expect a number of calls, a number of topics under those destinations. First one, biodiversity and ecosystem services. The second one is about healthy, environmentally friendly food system from primary production to consumption. The third one is more about circular economy and bioeconomy sector. Then we have clean environment and zero pollution, the fourth one. The fifth one, it's about land, oceans and water for climate action. The sixth one, it's about, let's say, healthy green rural, coastal and urban communities. So a number of priorities, and both in the case of cluster 6 and in the case of EIC, European Innovation Council, according to the current state of the negotiation of Horizon Europe, there should be 9 billion each available, 9 billion for cluster 6 and 9 billion for EIC across the 7 years from 21 to 27. Still, on the negotiation of Horizon Europe, we all expect, we all hope that the negotiation will be closed and concluded in the next couple of months in order to finalize and get public with the first Horizon Europe course in January. If so, you can expect the first cutoff, the first deadlines from spring onwards. So from spring 21, April, not before April, I think, and across the summer of 21, and that's what we hope in order to start with new calls, new opportunities. Some of them, I'm not an expert of the sector, but I really think that some of them are quite in line with the Italian implementation strategy, so with the action plan presented by Professor Fava. So I think it's already the right moment to start and getting prepared, starting this call, setting up, establish the right partnership, and we don't have to forget that yes, we are waiting for Horizon Europe, but there are still some Horizon 2020, so the current programming ongoing. The Commission a couple of 3 weeks ago published the 1 billion of calls about the Green Deal universe, and some of them, of course, I think are really interesting for the audience of today. So, okay, Horizon Europe, but let's pay attention also to the last calls of Horizon 2020, such as the ones on Green Deals. And here the deadline, if I well remember, is 26th of January. So 3 months more to apply, to get prepared, to establish the right partnership. That's it for my side for the time being.
Thank you, Antonio, very much for this overview of Horizon Europe, so the future R&I program from the European Commission. In the meantime, I heard from Michael Nettersheim that is not possible to connect, so he was not able to speak. And Nikolai sent his regards because he has to join another workshop. But I would like to ask the participants if they can submit questions or comments through Mentimeter using the code that you see at the top of the PowerPoint, going to menti.com. And maybe we can just share a very quick question to all the participants, 1 minute each. So what could be the obstacles to, I don't know, for the application of this instrument in order to boost the bioeconomy, especially in Italy, I would say. So now we are almost alone without the speakers from Europe, unfortunately. Annalisa, Zezza, do you want to start? 1 minute, because we almost arrived at 1 o'clock.
Very briefly, from the agricultural point of view, I think it is very important to aggregate farmers and get the connection with the other sector. That means, well, of course, they are already connected with the food industry, but there are other sectors that are involved in the bioeconomy. But there is a problem of, let's say, marketing power and farmers complain that they don't have they don't get the right prices for the biomass. But it could be different if they could do some activities like some fast transformation of the biomass on farm and supply the biomass to the industries at the right time and how it is needed. But we need investment for that, and also we need to share models, so to share good practice among European farmers, because there are a lot of very interesting experience, but they are not very well known between the majority of farmers.
Thank you, Annalisa. Now I go to Gabriele Pasquini by phone.
Thank you for your interesting intervention. Concerning what are the existing obstacles for the application of these instruments, from my personal point of view, due to my extensive experience in PPP, the first point that we have to face on is the selection of the business case. So when we decide to involve private sector in financing a bioeconomy project, or rather all the project that we can finance with PPP, the first question that we have to answer is, what is the business case in order to select the private partner, the right private partner, and from the other side, the business case in itself, in order to ensure the bankability of the project. Another relevant question is the role of the banks in assessing and financing the project. So these are the relevant obstacles for the application of these instruments. From another point of view, as I said before, the need of standardization of procedure. We have maybe it would be useful to evaluate the possibility of applying PPP schemes for bioeconomy. I read a lot of documents which we are including PPP as public-private partnership or PPP as public-public partnerships. But we have to evaluate and identify in a proper way which is the importance of PPP in bioeconomy. I read no study, no researches about the implementation of PPP from the point of view of finance the farmer. It would be a useful solution in order to analyze in depth PPP use in bioeconomy. Thank you, Chiara. Thank you.
Thank you. Metto giù, perché... Thank you, Gabriele. It's a pity because Giulia Gregori is not here anymore, and I was sure that it could be a really good discussion with her about all these instruments and how to apply. So I give the same question to Sara that I can see. So she's here.
Thank you very much. So about obstacles, I refer my answer to my main area of work, which is innovation public procurement. As an obstacle, I think we are witnessing too much intermediated contract actions, procurement action. What I mean, when I talk about intermediation, I consider the problem to not engage end-to-end the procurer. The intermediaries are too far from the needs and from the technical specialist skills, which are fundamental in the procurement process, and are too far from the process of the provision of the public services interested by the innovation. I heard from the first contribution and the reflection of the first relator, if I have understood correctly, so from Pasquini Gabriele, he emphasized, correct me if I'm wrong, about the importance to regulate and define the risk and benefit sharing mechanism in an action involving innovation. I think I agree that this is a fundamental skill to be involved in the design of the procurement also. But I think that if we ignore or if we consider the public managers of a public service or the policy makers strictly committed to elaborate regulation in the specific sector, we have initiatives not able to determine impact. The procurement is the principal action able to enabling the acceleration of the market entry process. It assures the adoption path. But to do this is important that the procurers remain engaged along the process. So we have to involve who represent effectively the demand side, that participate in the delivery chain of the service that will benefit from the research, development and innovation efforts, that have the requirement, that therefore that knows perfectly the area of references. This is the first obstacle I find out. It has to be said that with the exception, important exception of direct funding like Horizon 2020, which directly incentivize the public buyers for all the activities to be conducted, because and they co-found the training of the public procurers in implementing the innovation procurement, not only on the preparation phase, but in my experience, what I found it is systematically underestimated is the effort required to monitor the execution of the contract and to evaluate, also ex post, the impact of the procurement and to assume all the actions necessary to provide a technical dissemination about the results. This is the obstacle, is that it's very hard, with some exception also in Italy. For example, Sardinia region have also incentivized the public buyers, the proponents of the innovation, to conduct themselves the innovation procurement along the entire cycle, co-founding also them to be to be incentivized to follow and to assure the execution of the contract. The other aspect that has already been mentioned by another speaker is about the fragmentation of the demand, the fragmentation of the initiatives, which in public procurement means the fragmentation of the public demand. When we talk about innovation, we have to understand, accept that there is an inherent transnational dimension. So the incentive to cooperate and this cooperative work needs to be done in the demand side. I think that the very old mechanism of partnership or co-living lab in 19 developed that found their success in 90s have now been overcome by the necessity to find a strict cooperation among the demand side through an aggregation of the demand and the initiatives. Today, public procurers report systematically that they experience difficulties to procure jointly or to coordinate their actions and to create these synergies that are very important, again, in a procurement action aimed at determining reduction of expenditure and sustainability of the services and clear impact. The aggregation is fundamental, but it's hard. To be pragmatic and to be honest with you, the main important barriers they refer is the linguistic barriers. We have valuable initiatives, but we have not this capability to dialogue with peers in other countries and to leverage the procurement power. Mechanisms for an inter-administrative cooperation are not so well defined, but ensure that they do not persist and has to be developed ad hoc to support any such procurement. And these take time. These require specialized experts. Also writing an agreement between the public actors is important to have the same goal and the same impact. So setting up such procurement architecture would require the establishment of a stable public institutional relationship. I would reflect more about this public cooperation, which is important. I think that Horizon 2020, and I'm sure also Horizon Europe, will continue funding innovation procurement, and it has a value added because it's inherent the cooperation among countries and is inherent the provision of workable functioning models and templates that are very, very effective in the achievement of the result. So I hope that the new season of Horizon Europe will sustain more and so effectively innovation public procurement.
Yeah, thank you, Sara. What do you think, Antonio? Will be really supportive Horizon Europe? There will be enough budget?
Makes fully sense. I don't know if there will be enough budget because, as you probably know, the great ambition of the Commission and the Parliament over the last few months, let's say, face a kind of a cut from other, let's say, in particular for the willing of some member states. So today we're talking about 85 billion euros for the next 7 years, but I think it's very important the concept of the synergies. Maybe we abused a bit of this term, but I think it's important to build on or build up from national experience. So national experiences national project, national resources, because we know very well that the European competition is quite strong. So the more we invest at national level on specific priority, the more we will be able to, let's say, push this priority also in the European landscape and pre-submit proposals, submit ideas with an added value, even as coordinator, because as Italy, we participate a lot under Horizon 2020 and Horizon Europe, but maybe we are some more in trouble on be the first actor of this kind of project. As obstacle, I don't know if we can say obstacle, Chiara, but yes, first of all, we should distinguish better between the several programs, the several instruments of the framework program. But first of all, I think in Italy we have to learn a bit more on focus, first of all, on the problem to be solved. So the user needs, which is what is the challenge, and also address and adapt maybe our ideas to the call text and the specific challenge behind the call text. And then improve the dialogue, the collaboration, industry, academia, and maybe think more about the fact that the idea is not enough, because the competition is strong. We have to build up a very strong proposal on the several aspects. Yes, the scientific and technological quality, but it's not enough. We need interdisciplinary teams. We need interdisciplinary consortia. Management, let's say, we need management skills. We need also to build up the whole package. So yes, technical scientific skills, management skills, but also in the Horizon Gergo exploitation, so impact, so understand how to go to the market with a specific strategy. I think this is changed with the current Horizon 2020. It's changed compared to the previous framework program, mainly focused on research, let's say till the first prototype. From Horizon 2020 onwards, including Horizon Europe, the terms innovation is more and more emphasized by the European Commission, and it means also that the funding schemes changed. Excellence on the scientific point of view is not enough, so that's why I told before, dialogue with industry, interdisciplinary teams, and again, the more we will be able to build up on national experience, national project, and I think the higher will be the chance of success in the European context.
Thank you, Antonio. So I would like to thank all the speakers that had also the patience to wait until the end of the workshop. So here in this slide, you can see the workshop website, so the link to the workshop. We will upload this presentation, so with also the Fava PowerPoint, and we will upload also the report coming from this workshop with the previous consent of the speakers, obviously, and you can also find here a survey. The colleagues are putting also here on the chat, I think, the website, a survey for consumers to understand how consumers are aware about bioeconomy and bio-based product in this specific field. So I would like to thank all the participants and a very, very thank to the speakers. I hope to have occasion to collaborate with you again. Thank you very much and have a nice weekend.
Thank you.
Bye-bye.
Bye.